Next question, what are your top 5 breweries and what is your single favorite beer each of those breweries makes? My top 5 breweries, I'll start at number 5 first. I will go with McKellar. I did have them a little bit higher on the list not too long ago, but to be honest, I was kind of let down by Jackie Brown and It's Alive, and I just kind of, felt like maybe I needed to drop that down a little bit. But anyway, the best beer that I've had from them, I would say, that's probably a tie. I really liked the 1000 IBU IPA I did not too long ago, but I also really like their Beer Geek Breakfast. I think that's a really good beer as well. My number 4 brewery, I'm going to have to go with the Lost Abbey for obvious reasons. I just think they're an amazing brewery. If you go out to Rate Beer and you click on all of their beers and sort by rating, I've never seen a brewery have so many 100-point beers in all my life. And pretty much everything I've had from them, which is not a whole lot, I would say I've probably had about 5 of their beers, but everything that I've had, from the packaging to the taste, just to the overall experience, I've really enjoyed everything. I would say probably the Angel Share Bourbon Barrel edition that Tim and I reviewed not too long ago is probably one of the best that I've had from them. Number 3 is Hair of the Dog. I think they're just an amazing brewery for being so small and for having such limited distribution. I'm just infatuated with that brewery. And Adam, their beer called Adam, is easily one of the best beers I've reviewed this year. And I would say probably in my top 5 to 10 beers of all time. It's just really, really amazing. My number 2 brewery, we just did not too long ago, is Founders. I think a lot of people are on, all over Founders. I think pretty much everything that they do, with the exception of a few, are just extremely stellar beers. My favorite, I'm going to have to say, is kind of a tie between KBS and just the regular BS. But anyway, my favorite brewery, I don't think this is any secret. I absolutely love Russian River. I'm intrigued by the brewery as much as I love their beer as well. And to say, what my favorite is of theirs, I'm gonna have to go with Pliny the Younger. It was probably, the best beer of theirs I've had. I still like Hopslam better. Just a touch better, just a touch better, but yeah, the Pliny the Younger. So those are my top 5 breweries and, my favorite beers by each of them. So thanks for that question. The next one, there is typically, and this is an interesting question. I think this was one of the more interesting questions I got. There is typically a difference in a beer that is on draft versus bottle. Do you find it problematic that you rely on bottled samples? Well, I have this philosophy about beer, and it's this. It's just beer, I know a lot of people really like to make it more than it is. If I give something 100 versus a 99, it's beer, it doesn't mean anything. If I give something a 98 or a 100, that just means it's a really, really good beer and you should go find it. So, but I don't find it to be a problem. I do like the social aspect of drinking on draft, because generally you're in a bar and you have people to talk to and they're serving you. So there is a certain nuance to drinking on tap versus a bottle. To be honest with you though, I prefer bottle. You've seen the way I pour my beers on the show. I generally only go about halfway up the glass. I really like to swirl the beers, open them up, get the smells, and when you get them from a tap, they generally fill those glasses right up to the top. So that's all the questions about beer. The next question is based on music, and as you know, I really try to put as much music on the website as possible. I listen to an insane amount of music. Music is as big a part of my life as beer, if not more. I could do without beer if I had to, for health reasons or whatever, but I absolutely could not do without music. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to incorporate music into the site, because one of my favorite things to do is get off work, come home, turn on some music, sit down on the couch or out on the deck, and just pop open a nice beer and just relax and unwind from the day. So the question is, what are your top 5 bands And then what are your top 5 albums of all time? So my top 5 favorite bands, I'm going to go with Wilco. I just think that they're an amazing band. I think they are the best band making music in America today. I've seen them several times live, and they are just amazing live. If you think their records are good, man, they're even better live. So the next one goes back to kind of my high school days, but I was really into The Cure in the late 80s, early 90s. I bought every album they had, every single they had. You know, my friend Sean and I used to just, I mean, we would stay up all night listening to The Cure. So Disintegration was about the time we came into them, but anyway, always been one of my favorite bands. I don't listen to them as much as I used to, but I still like them. The next one, Radiohead. I mean, I think that's probably obvious. To me, you know, Wilco's the best band in America making music today, and I think Radiohead is the best European act making music today. Anyway, I just love them. I think they're true artists, and I've pretty much loved every record they've made. The next one, kind of another, you know, new wave post-punk band, New Order. I was always a fan of Joy Division. You know, obviously when the lead singer Ian Curtis killed himself, they went on as New Order, and the early New Order stuff really kind of had a Joy Division flavor to it. They kind of became a little bit more electronic over time, but you know, I just have always thought they did such great music that I could really relate to, great for driving on the highway to, but anyway, really love New Order. And then finally, Interpol. Some of you may or may not have heard of Interpol. They've only been around for about maybe 10 years now, but they're another, you know, post-punk band that really kind of has that same feel as, you know, Joy Division and The Cure, and they kind of just, you know, have that sound. But I've actually traveled a couple of times to see them live, and I mean, another one of those bands where if you think their albums are good, they are just phenomenal live, and they have a really great stage presence as well. But those are probably my top 5 favorite bands, just going off of, you know, who's had the most impression or made the biggest impression on me over the course of my life. What are my top 5 favorite albums? You know, I picked 5 here. They're not in any specific order. In fact, they're all a little bit different, which is good, but these are just 5 albums that, you know, I don't know if I could live without. I just always go back to them, you know, and time again. The first one is by a guy named Bonnie Prince Billy. I'm sure some of you are familiar with him. He used to record music as Will Oldham, which is his, you know, real name. Bonnie Prince Billy is just kind of a stage name or an alternative name, but he got together with a bunch of country sessions musicians in Nashville, and they recorded an album of just covers of his old songs. But anyway, the album's called Bonnie Prince Billy Sings Palace Music Songs. I absolutely love that album. You know, I do love country. I don't love new country. I love the old country, like, you know, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even the early 80s country when it was really country. And this album just kind of, you know, it has that nice, clean Nashville sound that I don't think has been done in probably 20, 30 years. So really like that album a lot. Another album that's on my favorite list, I talked about Interpol earlier. Their album Turn on the Bright Lights, I listened to that album probably for 6 months straight. I just think it's a perfect album from beginning to end. I think they're great musicians, and I think that one will stand the test of time. The third one, a little bit interesting choice here, maybe for you, not for me. I absolutely love Prince's Purple Rain soundtrack. I've listened to that thing, I mean, since it came out in the 80s. I just absolutely love it. I think it's the best soundtrack ever made, and I also think it's one of the best albums made, period. The next one, I would imagine that most of you have probably not heard of this album, and that's okay, though I feel sorry for you. I think you need to go out and look for it. It's an album called Casa, you know, house, just by Sakamoto and Morlenbaum. And it's a tribute to Antonio Carlos Jobim, who was a very famous bossa nova artist from the 60s and 70s. But anyway, Sakamoto and Morlenbaum's Casa. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful albums ever made. You know, very relaxing. You want to come home and, you know, sit on your deck at dusk and listen to some beautiful music. That's the one I recommend. And then finally, you know, Wilco's A Ghost Is Born, I think is probably the height of, you know, their career. You know, from beginning to end, I love every single song. It blows my mind every time. I still hear something new in it every time I listen to it. I just think that it's a great album. Well, guys, thanks a lot for the questions. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys later.